In my head, my daughter had been kidnapped and I was being asked to play nice with the kidnappers.
They live in the shadows of Britain's creaking care system. The mums and dads, brothers and sisters of people with learning disabilities, cut off from the people they love.
Why do you think it is that they were restricting your contact?
So that I couldn't see what was going on. I just see such a rotten system.
Separated by care companies, councils and the courts because their loved ones complained about the care homes they're living in.
This is a story that is hard to tell. It is a story meant by order of the courts to remain untold. Yet the families who've contacted us, who must remain anonymous, believe they have no choice. They just want to see their loved ones.
From when he was a baby, it was apparent that he wasn't hitting his milestones.
We will call this woman Rita. Her son, now a young adult, has severe learning disabilities.
He was a very sweet-natured, he was a lovely, lovely boy. I was looking after him, getting him into school. He was under special educational needs in a mainstream school. We had a normal life. And then basically our lives changed forever.
Rita cared for her son at home his entire childhood, with some help from carers. But as he got older and his behaviour more challenging, she asked for more support. Instead, the local authority decided it was best her son was cared for in supported living, run by a private company, against her wishes.
I had concerns about the numerous safety risks that were at the premises. In the bedroom there was a bayonet bulb dangling down, and it would have been quite inevitable that he would have grabbed at it. He would have burnt his hand and he would have broken the glass. There was a freestanding wardrobe which my son, in times of heightened behaviour, he'd thrown over furniture. I asked for that to be secured to the wall and they never did it. His bedroom was on the first floor. There was nothing to prevent the window being opened wide. He may have tried to climb out of his bedroom window.
And yet when you raised them...
I was banned from the bedroom. I was banned from going upstairs.
It was then they introduced strict limits on Rita's contact.
They just put more and more restrictions on me visiting. They just tightly kept to this 3 times a week for an hour. Even down to the minute. At 59 minutes, they'd be telling me, your time is up, you've got to go. And that was regardless of whether my son was clearly enjoying my presence there. It was cruel. It was so cruel.
Did you have ongoing concerns about the care he was receiving?
Yeah, my son was appearing with visible injuries. He'd lost a lot of weight and he was very undernourished. He was self-harming daily.
One of the neighbours came over and said they were concerned they were hearing a lot of distress. Sometimes he'd be self-harming and shouting and screaming for hours and hours. I'd just go and park up outside and listen. And sometimes I recorded the sound I was hearing.
Rita was ignored for months, but when a social worker made a complaint about her son's care, he was removed from the home and placed elsewhere. Rita was right all along.
I'm very, very traumatised. My son is very traumatised. I don't think we'll ever recover from what's happened to us.
Rita's son is under the Court of Protection, which decides whether a person has mental capacity to make decisions about their own welfare and ultimately what is in their best interest. He's also subject to a transparency order, meaning we can't identify him, his mum, or any of the 50 people who've contacted ITV News to say their contact too has been restricted, after they complain to the care provider or council, who claim it's in the best interest of their relatives.
Here's a few of the examples we've received. Following raising a safeguarding concern over severe bruising on my daughter's armpits, I was forbidden from entering my daughter's home. I was restricted from seeing my son because I was witnessing him suffer. He was over-medicated, looking scared and begging me, his mother, to get him out of there. Another said, I accused the provider of hurting my child. I was stopped from seeing him for 3 months. Turns out they were hurting my child. Another says, my son is not allowed to visit his home or attend family events. 1 year they even refused for him to come home for Christmas.
Contact restrictions are becoming more and more common. Certainly for my own caseload, it seems that way.
Hannah Whitehead is a lawyer who represents families in the Court of Protection. She says a lack of care placements for learning disabled people means councils and courts agree to contact restrictions for fear the care company will withdraw care altogether if complaints continue.
There is a dearth of care home placements across the country, and so there's a need to preserve those placements wherever possible, and that can mean sometimes using contract restrictions to make sure that that placement can be kept. In most of the cases I've seen, the contact restrictions have been implemented by the care homes, and then the care home goes to the local authority to authorise it, who sometimes feel that their hands are tied because they don't want to lose that placement. Everybody's entitled to expect a level of care, and they're entitled to complain when they're not receiving that. I also think care homes should be understanding of that. They should be understanding of the fact that these people care about the vulnerable person that they're meant to be looking after, and not use contract restrictions punitively to stop that from happening.
The first time I knew there was an issue was at the age of 6 months old.
Susan, which is not her real name, contacted us about her daughter who has severe learning and physical disabilities.
I realised that she had a learning disability, which also affected her muscles and her growing. She needed 24-hour care.
So you always looked after her at home, that was what you did?
Always. Never had a night away.
When her daughter turned 18, Susan had to apply for adult rather than children's care funding, and after an assessment it was decided it was better she lived in a residential home against Susan's wishes, and was told she couldn't have any contact with her daughter for the first 6 weeks.
My role as mother was removed. It was horrendous. It was horrible. We couldn't comfort her. I would say to somebody if they had a 2-year-old who was taken from them and you couldn't comfort them, it feels similar to that. She wouldn't know where her mum and dad were. It is an institution. It is basic. She barely leaves the building. There is no aspiration. She lives in a place where she gets no cuddles from somebody who loves her.
Susan complained about the quality of care and spent £45,000 of her own money, everything she had, arguing in the Court of Protection that her daughter should be cared for at home. And as she did, restrictions were placed on her contact.
It was made the most difficult contact possible. Yes, you can have contact, but between these hours, we are going to supervise it. It was 2 hours, twice a week. There is no contact room there, so it was in the physio room. There are no chairs in there, so we had to sit on the floor with her, being watched. It was horrendous. During that time, I had a mental breakdown. In my head, my daughter had been kidnapped and I was being asked to play nice with the kidnappers. Once this picture has been presented of you as a moaner, there is no way out of it.
The 50 families we've spoken to believe they're trapped in a care system that chooses silence over solutions. They are demanding high quality care for their loved ones, but it is simply easier and cheaper to stop their complaints by reducing their contact.
There's 100% a system that's letting families down.
And learning disability charities say it's placing families in an impossible bind.
Families have had to battle their whole life for just the basic level of care their relative is entitled to. We see so often people labelled as difficult, whereas in fact they have a justified scepticism about what providers or local authorities or health bodies are doing due to the experience they've had previously.
After years of fighting, Susan has recently secured more hours with her daughter, but won't stop until she's home. Rita's son is now in a new care home and is hoping her restrictions will soon be lifted. They represent the silent families whose loved ones have no choice and no voice in who cares for them.